When Islam Makhachev dismantled Renato Moicano at UFC 311, Dana White didn't hesitate to call him the pound-for-pound king. Then Islam dropped his lightweight belt like it was weighing him down, and he went chasing gold at welterweight, almost like he had something to prove. And perhaps he did, because that win marked Makhachev's fourth title defense, the most in lightweight history, and one more than his mentor Khabib Nurmagomedov managed before also vacating the title. And that's now the question. Who's the better lightweight, the student or the master? Spoiler alert, it's Islam, and I'll tell you why. Khabib's resume is clean, spotless, and perfectly preserved in amber. 29-0, never beaten, never cut, never really threatened. He retired in 2020 as an untouchable symbol of dominance, a mythic creature who never gave the sport a chance to humble him. But numbers don't lie, and they're starting to betray nostalgia because Islam has simply surpassed him in almost every statistically significant way. Khabib has more wins across his entire record, but only just. And are we really counting pre-UFC stats? Over their lightweight UFC careers, Islam has more title wins, defenses, wins, and even has the longer win streak despite having a loss on his slate. Khabib had more wins before he vacated the title. But forget the Dagestani gym wars, they don't count. On paper, Islam isn't just the better lightweight, he's a more accomplished UFC fighter, period. Yet we keep clinging to the ghost of the eagle. And why? Khabib's championship reign may have been short, but it was nuclear. 3 defenses, total domination, smash city. Ignore his win over Al Iaquinta for the vacant title. Al took the fight on less than a day's notice, he was barely inside the top 10, and he missed weight. As such, Khabib treated him like a grappling dummy for 25 minutes, 172 strikes to 43 and 6 takedowns to none. It was a mismatch disguised as a championship, but it was really just the prelude to the real title fight the world had been waiting for. The one against Conor McGregor, the pay-per-view god, the man who boxed Floyd Mayweather, the man who came back thinking he was still the double champ. But Khabib didn't just beat him, he baptized him in Conor's own blood and sweat. While McGregor did take a round off him, the only one Khabib ever lost in the UFC, the Eagle locked in a face crank so tight it nearly turned into a diplomatic incident. After a 9-month suspension for the post-fight melee, Khabib had to face Dustin Poirier, who had claimed the interim title in his absence. Another third-round submission, business as usual. Then COVID hit, and the Eagle wasn't allowed to fly out of Russia until after Justin Gaethje had claimed the new interim title. On Fight Island, Nurmagomedov put Gaethje to sleep with a triangle choke in the second round before announcing his retirement from mixed martial arts. In short, 3 defenses, 2 interim champs, and 1 ex-king, all destroyed. It was a perfect championship resume, if you don't mind that it ended halfway through the movie. Makhachev's lightweight run, by comparison, was longer but shakier, and not necessarily against better competition. His crowning moment came against the Brazilian submission wizard Charles Oliveira, the most dominant lightweight champion in years, and Islam made him look like a regional prospect and choked him out in 2 rounds. Then came Alexander Volkanovski, the featherweight king. Sure, he was smaller, but he was the pound-for-pound #1. That's the scalp that Islam really wanted. And while Islam got the win, it came by decision after Volk nearly finished him in round 5. When they ran it back, Volk took the fight on 11 days' notice and got iced in 1. Somehow, that's the fight that made Islam the new pound-for-pound champ, because MMA logic is undefeated. Next came Khabib's old opponent, Dustin Poirier, but by then the perennial contender was having more wars than wins. While Islam closed the show with a Bravo choke in round 5, it was a war that went 2 rounds longer than it took Khabib to handle the same man. The next defense was supposed to be a rematch with Arman Tsarukyan, one of the few men who had ever pushed Islam to a decision. But when Tsarukyan's back gave out the day before the fight, Renato Moicano stepped in and also got Bravo choked for his trouble. So Islam's 4 defenses included 2 wins over a smaller champ, one over a guy out of contention and one against a last-minute sub. But does any of that matter when you've got the W's? Khabib will always have the mythical zero. The man literally retired undefeated. He's the unicorn of championship MMA, but how much does that really mean if you never stick around long enough to fail? Former women's bantamweight champion and one-time most dominant athlete on the planet, Ronda Rousey, doesn't think it means a lot at all. And she may have a point. I think the only reason why MMA fans have their lips so firmly planted at the base of Khabib's is because he retired before he reached his limit, said Rousey with a mouth like a sailor. If he kept fighting until he reached his limit, everybody would be, Khabib ain't he never would. Crude? Sure, but she's hitting a nerve that the MMA seems increasingly blind to. Longevity matters. Grit matters. The willingness to risk the zero matters. She mentioned legends like Chuck Liddell and Fedor Emelianenko, along with other fighters who she believes have legacies far greater than Khabib's, despite the losses on their record. Makhachev's record will never be perfect, but he made more defenses, fought more often, and he went gunning for a second belt. That's legacy chasing, not legacy protecting. And in this sport, it should be the guy who keeps walking into the fire that earns the respect. Steve Garcia showed up like a man on a mission for his first UFC main event, and he went home with another highlight reel performance. Garcia stopped David Onama in the first round to close out Fight Night 263 for his 7th straight win, 6 of them finishes. From the opening bell, Garcia hunted Onama with sharp, relentless pressure. The left hand that dropped the Ugandan felt inevitable, and though he briefly stood back up, Garcia poured on strikes until the ref had seen enough, but he only wants more. You know what? I'm going to throw a little curveball in there. I want the Rocky Balboa story. I want the Max Holloway BMF title, said Garcia. And it could be the making of a Hollywood screenplay. Holloway just defended his BMF title in a thriller against Dustin Poirier, which keeps his name well and truly in the lightweight mix. But the former featherweight king might not be first in line. Holloway's last fight at featherweight ended with a knockout loss to the then-champ Ilia Topuria. But Topuria, the newly crowned lightweight champion, seems far more interested in settling old business with Paddy Pimblett. Or taking on the former interim light and BMF champion Justin Gaethje. But Gaethje's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, hinted that Dana White's plans stretch beyond the current rumor mill. According to him, the UFC CEO wants to wait until after Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev fight for the welterweight title before making any future plans. So perhaps Max could give Garcia the blockbuster he wants.
He is a BMF for every sense of the word, man.
And in the co-main, Waldo Cortes-Acosta stopped Ante D'Elia by first-round TKO after some divine rulebook irony. A week after D'Elia's teammate, the heavyweight champ Tom Aspinall, got poked in the eyes, D'Elia accidentally gouged Cortes-Acosta mid-exchange before getting knocked out. It initially looked like D'Elia had scored the TKO, only for the Nevada Commission to intervene after a replay confirmed the eye poke. Once cleared to continue, Cortes-Acosta reset, reloaded, and promptly starched D'Elia with a finishing combination that left no ambiguity. So why isn't the fight happening between me and Tom Aspinall, he asked, clearly looking to skip the title cue. Tom Aspinall says D'Elia is one of the best, and look what happened. Then what can happen between Tom Aspinall and Waldo Cortes? No Fight of the Night bonuses were handed out at UFC Fight Night 263, but performance checks went to Steve Garcia and Waldo Cortes-Acosta, as well as Alan Nascimento and Dante Johnson for their second-round submission victories. In other UFC news, Yuri Prochazka is getting restless. The former light heavyweight champion wants another title rematch with Alex Pereira, the man who handed him his only 2 losses since 2016. Except Pereira might be plotting a move to heavyweight. If that happens, Prochazka could follow his instincts and his metabolism down to middleweight, where the new champion, Khamzat Chimaev, is currently without an opponent. I believe I can make it to middleweight with my body, because I know my body. So, I believe I can make it, but it depends, said Prochazka. I really first want to bring the title to Czech Republic, light heavyweight. So once again, his fate lies in the hands of Poatan.
Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.